Hey, this is Glendon Cameron once again with another edition of How to Make a Living Without a Job. One of the most critical steps that you can take to making a living without a job is ownership of your hustle. We've talked about it before. Someone's like, what exactly is ownership of your hustle? I'll give you a classic example. But before that, you need to pay some bills, baby. First of all, the most important thing that you can do is change your mindset. What goes on in your mental environment is going to determine whether you're successful or not in whatever you choose to do. To get a jump start on that, check out right here the Hustler Mindset, Pimping Your Mind for Success audiobook. Hit this link, get it now. Let's talk about owning your hustle. So many people do something and sometimes they're not good, sometimes they're really good, but they refuse to own the hustle. Let me give you an example. Had a consult maybe 7 months ago. Was talking to an HMS member, and he was a little namby-pamby about what he was doing. He had a job, but he was very good at painting. And, you know, people are like, anyone can paint. No, anyone cannot paint. There are certain people that have a talent for it. There are certain people that are very neat. He's very good at what he did. And he was very fast. He was good and fast. So he had painting jobs on the side. He worked in a plant. And he came to HMS and my channel because he wanted to earn a little extra scratch. And he was into the storage auction game. But because of his job, it never really worked out. Because he could never get units. When, you know, because if you didn't know, most storage auctions occur Monday through Friday between the hours of 8:30 and 5:30. So that's the time he was working. So he came in when I did HMS last year, and you know he liked it and everything, and he bought a consult. And this is why I like consults. This is why I like it, because typically a person will send me a question, and you know, say this is the question, right? And behind this question, there's all this stuff that I don't know about, which really makes it hard for me to answer the question appropriately, because there's all this stuff and these variables and they're like, I don't know about. So it's a little frustrating. So he did the consult, and I was like, hey, who are you? What do you do? What are your strengths? What are your talents? And that's when this painting thing came up. Now, this is what got me. I was like, yo, you do the painting, right? And he was like, yeah. That's what he said. He did it just like that. Yeah, I do a little painting. And I was like, well, how much do you make me do a painting job? He's like, $250, $300. I mean, it's that total cost. Is, you know, he's like, well, usually I make them buy the paint. And I just charge labor. You know, sometimes I'll bring a few things because I already have them. Sometimes I'll even do the paint job because I have paint left over from another job, depending on what it is. Now, this man's in a town. Small town, and what he makes in his job's not that much. $450, some overtime, maybe $5 something a week. That's what he nets out at. And where he is, that's a pretty good job. That's one of the reasons that, you know, he's reluctant to let it go. Now, when he does a paint job, at a minimum, he makes in a day what he makes in a day half of what he makes in a week on the best week of his job in a day. So he needs 2 days a week, so 2 jobs a week to replace his income. But once again, he's in a small town. So there's, you know, he gets jobs here and there, but this small town is not that far from a larger town. So we sat down, we talked, and I was like, well, you got a truck, right? You have ladders, right? You have paint, right? You like it. Apparently, he's been doing it for years. You're very good. Why don't you just go ahead, do an LLC? And this is how, when I do consults and I talk to people, he had like 15 years of experience. So this was no Johnny come lately to the painting business. He was very good. He knew it, all the ins and outs. And I was like, you know, do an LLC, incorporate, get your name out there, and what you do on the weekends is you go to the local Craigslist and you advertise your services in the larger city, And on the weekends, what you're going to do is rent a hotel room and take your ass to the city and do the job. Because the city was about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And, your job cost. And it's like, job cost, yes, you will add the hotel cost into your fee for painting. Since you're going out there. And then another thing that's going to happen, since you're driving an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on traffic, that's a lot of mileage, which will offset your job income significantly. And they got a little excited, and I can feel it. And also, when someone asks you, what do you do? And I need you to do this favor for me. And it's like, what? When someone says, what are you doing? And you go, I do it. Get that out your vocabulary. Get that shit out of there. Own your hustle. So we go through all this stuff. He goes through the steps. First few weeks, kind of hit or miss. A lot of times things just don't blow up. But this guy, he likes painting. He's got the job. He didn't quit his job. I don't recommend people just quit their job to just go off and do something that's not proven yet. So he's putting the ads up. He buys another consult. We go over his Craigslist ads. I tell him exactly what's wrong. He changes the Craigslist ads. Calls start coming in. He gets a job and he calls me up and he's like, it's huge. I was like, what do you mean it's huge? He's like, got this couple. They like me. He said, I just blew out this big ass price right at $3,000. And they said, okay. And I don't know what to do. I was like, well, you take the job. Do you have any of your painting buddies? He's like, I got a few guys. Actually, 2 of them aren't working. I'm like, dude, you got $3,000 potential income. You know 2 dudes who can paint that you trust. And they're not. I wanted to slap him through the phone. I said, call your buddies. Do the thing. Take a vacation from your job. You got all kinds of vacation time. And he does this. He goes out. He does the job. And after paying not 1, not 2 guys, but 2 guys, driving out there, and it took a week to do this job because it was big. And actually, I told him he actually undercharged. That's why the couple just went shoot. Because later on, through another consultant, it's like, look, you need to figure out what your competition's charging. And what you could do is call them up and ask for a quote. You could kind of like, no. The best way to do is call them up, give them the specific house, and ask them what they would do for it. And when he did that, he was just literally blown away. But even with that, he still, after paying those 2 guys, driving out all the way to that larger town, he still netted out at $2,300. Let me say that again. Because the couple tipped him because they knew they were getting a screaming deal. They tipped him $500. And, he was getting ready to be Big Daddy, spread the... I was like, dude, you hired those 2 dudes. What'd you hire them for? $500, right? Pay them their $500. Throw another $100 on that, whatever. And be done with that. Because the thing is, if you do another job and you need them, they're not going to want their normal rate. They're going to want the Big Willie style rate, and you've created a monster that you may not want to have. So he pays them, and he goes back to his town. He's exhausted. He has to go to work next week. But he's like, I made more money in 1 week with expenses and cost than I did all month on my job. That's with getting overtime. So, kept putting the Craigslist ads up. He started owning it. And then I noticed, we talked a lot. And he's like, yeah, I'm a painter, and I have my painting company, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And the thing is, if he tried to do what he was doing in his town, it wasn't going to work the way that it worked if he was willing to travel. And to travel, he's married, he's got kids. It wasn't, the wife was used to seeing him every night, him being a dad there for his kids, and she was not happy. But after a few months, when he had in the bank more than he had made in the last 2 years saved up, because the guy's a regular guy, not extravagant. His goal was, if I can do this and get this house paid off, oh wow, that was it. That was his goal. So 1 year, 1 year is when he expects to have that house paid off. 1 year. Because he started to own his hustle. He didn't quit his job. He worked extremely hard. And he's built a foundation because he's now actually getting referrals because he does such a good job. And I said, dude, now this is the thing. It's really hard, and the wife is still, because she wants him there. Screw the money. I want you here. And he's still dealing with that. But he sees the larger picture, because if he can get this house paid off, get his truck paid off, then he would be freed up to do what he loves full time. And that's ownership of the hustle. Because, she's like still going on it. And like I said, I was like, dude, I'm going to just tell you from a logistical standpoint, what you're doing, if you can get your house paid off in a year, that is tremendous security for you and your family. You just have property taxes and homeowners insurance. That's all you got to do. So this is another part of owning your hustle. He told her, he's like, I'm doing this. It's a good thing for the family. I need to do this. Recently, I heard from him again. That factory that he worked in, the job he's had for 12 years, they're closing down the plant. He's not worried. He's ecstatic. He is happy. Because his wife doesn't know. He said, I'm waiting to tell her. He said, I may not tell her for a while. Because I have so many jobs that I've turned down because I could not do them because of this job, that I may not be home for a while. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Because here's this guy who had this skill, who did not take ownership of his hustle. Because it was just, something I do. And there's a lot of you out there doing that. There's something you can do. And understand, it doesn't have to be extraordinary or extravagant. It just has to be different. If you can make a cookie with an extra ingredient and it's flavorful, and when people bite into it and the juices come in their mouth, they will pay for that. It doesn't have to be a life-changing cookie. People want to think that it has to be a life-changing cookie. In terms of owning your hustle, you got to be proud of what you're doing. And the thing is, when you're hustling, people are like, oh, you should get a job. Anyone that's saying something like that is really not paying attention to conditions. Mark my words, 15 years from now, you're going to see some serious job compression because of technology. I am just like, what the hell is going to happen? There will be certain jobs. We'll always need fire people. We'll always need policemen, nurses. But 100 years from now, what's going to happen? I don't know. But with owning your hustle, you have to get real with yourself. Because a lot of people do not want to own their hustle because it's not sexy or sophisticated or beautiful or something that when you can tell someone, it's like, what do you do? Well, I actually solve cancer. I'm a brain surgeon. I'm a rocket scientist. I'm a fashion model. People want these jobs with these beautiful titles so they sound good when they tell someone what they do. And to me, that is elegantly stupid. Once this was years ago, I actually told this story before. This was years ago. I bought a storage unit, and it had these really nice hand-woven rugs. They were not antique or vintage, but they were truly hand-woven. And I was able to get $700 a piece wholesale, selling them to a rug dealer. So I am at this place on Peachtree Street. I'm selling these rugs. I look like hell. Sweat. I'm humping rugs out to the van, taking them in there. And dude pays me the check. I've got thousands of dollars on me. I look like hell. I'm driving this van that has no air conditioning. And there's these chicks out there. And they're looking at me. And they're young girls. And they're looking and they're laughing and they're pointing because I look like hell. And then someone else comes up to me and is like, what do you do, man? Because, he sees me working. And I know what's coming because he's like, this is a guy looking for a job. I see that. I know that pitch very well. And I was like, well, I'm a hustler. And, in earshot of the girls, and they all kind of looking around, and they just break out laughing because, see, I don't look like a hustler. I didn't have a flashy car. I didn't have the watch. I didn't have the look. I was dripping in sweat and I was working. But that day I had earned $8 grand. $8,000. But I didn't look like it. But I owned my hustle. And I told this guy, it was a young guy, I was like, look, man, you know, and this is the time I was using my Latino brothers, and some Hispanic dude on another video got irritated. Fuck you, man! It's like, I'm sorry. The guys that I employed, they weren't saying fuck you, they were saying thank you. Asswipe. But in this thing of owning your hustle, being proud of what you do, it gives you energy. Because when you don't own your hustle, take ownership, you really are not putting in much wind behind your sails, because it's like you're half-stepping. In many cases, you're backsliding because you're caught up in some type of narrative that you need to speak to other people to say something that sounds good. I'm a hustler. That's the core thing of what I do. When I started Conundrum Publishing, which is now 4 years old, I put Glendon Cameron, and at first it was Chief Creative Officer, then I took that down and just put writer. That's it. That's what I do for Conundrum Publishing. Alright, I do more, but that's the genesis of everything I do. That's it. Not, you know, head writer, chief editor, and none of that shit will ever be there because it's not important. The important thing is that I own my hustle and it works. Another part of owning my hustle right here on YouTube, I've done many videos saying, my name is Glendon Cameron. I designed this channel to sell you books and products. I want you to buy my products. I think they're great. I believe they will help you. That's what I'm on. I want your money. And I said it, you know, in very unvarnished terms, that's the deal. And a lot of people are like, oh, no, you shouldn't be that. You should be people's buddies. You should be someone's friend. You should do this and you should do that and you should be a better guy and you should help out humanity and you should do all this stuff and you should do all that stuff and you should do this. And the people who are saying you should do this are broke as fuck. One of my biggest rules in life is I don't listen to people who have bad lives trying to give me advice on how to have a better one. If your life is fucked up, I'm not going to listen to you teach me how to make my life better. I'm not going to do it. It's like, really? You can't do that for yourself? But you're going to advise me how to do it. And another thing is, we live in a world that is two worlds. There's the real world, and then there's the narrative running on top of it. See, this real stuff here, it never changes. It never changes. Everyone is a staunch opportunist. Everyone's a staunch opportunist based on conditions. Just because your thing isn't YouTube or selling information products doesn't mean that you haven't done something else or currently doing something else. So, owning my hustle by being that forthright. And another thing about owning my hustle. 2009, when I came on YouTube and I talked about the storage auction game, not once did I say it was easy. Not once did I say you would get rich overnight. Not once did I say, oh, anyone can do it. Go to my earlier videos, first year, 2009, and you'll hear me say, if this may be some of the hardest work you've ever done in your life. This may be one of the most back-breaking things. You can lose money. I lost money. I even had a video. The worst unit I ever bought. Bought a unit and lost $800 buying it and another $200 throwing it away. I put that video up early. Not once did I say, hey, you know, it's easy and you won't lose money and it's risk-free. No, I didn't come at anyone with that stupid bullshit, because the truth of the matter is storage auctions are some of the hardest work in the world. And I was able, by owning my hustle and telling it like it was, the good, the bad, the ugly, to able to create an information product selling career. Now, this is the rub. If I had lied, I probably would have made 6 times as much money my first year. But I would have killed all of my goodwill for the future. I would have been, you think there are forums about me talking smack. The reason the forums are out there talking smack about me is because I say things like, fuck you, you're stupid, you're dumb. One of the reasons you're not successful is because you're lazy. That's one of the reasons. I call people what I think they are. Not, and and people was like, well, yeah, it's okay, but the information, blah, 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 blah. Because they cannot come at me and say these things. And what's really interesting about this is many of the people that threw stones, that burned me in effigy, later on tried to do the same thing that I did and miserably failed. Hold on, that's me laughing inside ridiculously. I mean, I'm losing my mind inside. I mean, it looks peaceful out here, but I am having a giggle fist on the inside. Because recently, some other people who were once again doing the same thing are now suffering some ill repercussions because of what they did. Now, see, this is the thing. When you own your hustle, when you own it from a position of honesty, truth, this is who I am, this is what I do, people gravitate toward that. People are looking for authenticity. They're not looking for glam and glitz and stuff. People looking for real. That's why vintage stuff sells so well, because it's real, it's designed differently, it has more quality. People are looking for that. And there's a lot of folks who believe in the okie doke, that it's like, hey, I'm your friend, I'm your buddy, I'm here to help you. Everyone has an agenda. Be honest about yours. Regardless of what you do, there's some people who are going to like it. There's going to be some people who are going to hate it. There's going to be some people who are going to throw stones at it. There's going to be some people who will get up on their hind legs and piss on it. But if you own it, and it's yours, and you treat it right, none of that stuff matters. Because you will grow and grow and grow. To taking ownership of your hustle, you also take ownership of your life. Because see, this is the thing. There's many people's like, hustling has such a negative connotation. I was advised not to rename the channel The American Hustler because of the negative connotations. I actually lost an interview with someone because it's like, I don't know about that hustling thing. I was like, okay, well, hey, thanks for your time. You have a nice life. Because when you take ownership of your hustle and know who you are and what you're about, those things don't bother you as much because it's like, okay, it didn't work out. We were not fit for each other. That's all it was. That's not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. We weren't fit for each other. And we move on. Because I have found that a lot of people want to be hustlers. I have found that a lot of people want to change their lives. I found a lot of people like this message. By owning my hustle, I sling products. I sell information. Yes, that's what I do, and I love it. And I'm going to continue to do it. That's ownership. So I don't care if you're baking cupcakes. I don't care if you're spanking raccoons. Own your hustle. We live in a world where at one point when I was a kid, people sold on television the pet rock. People were buying the pet rock. I, as a kid, scratched my head because it's like, I can go outside and get myself a rock right now. But people were buying pet rocks. And I didn't understand the psychology of that back then. It wasn't that it was a rock. It was a pet rock from a special place. Now, that's a whole nother video. But the whole deal is, they own their hustle. It's like, hey, we're going to sell you some rocks. There was no, it's like, and people bought the pet rock. Because they own their hustle. The Thigh Master. They took a little bit of scientific information that was true and expanded the narrative to $100 million. They own their hustle. So like I said, you can be successful owning your hustle. I don't care what it is. That's one of the reasons that the Hustler Mindset Project is pivoting, because there are so many people who want to do so many things. There's a lady, and get this book, The $100 Startup. I don't know her name, but she created a 6-figure income from scrapbooking business. It did not happen overnight. But understand, if I knew about her when I bought that unit full of stuff that would have been perfect for scrapbooks, I was like, hey, I got something for you. Well, understand, read, get out there. Don't live in a vacuum. There are so many things that are going on right now, it would just literally rock your world. But a lot of people are kind of waiting for permission to be successful. They're waiting for someone to say, okay, you can now go forth. That's the whole thing with getting a degree. A degree is a validation stamp. Psh, you're somebody. You could be somebody the minute you wake up in the morning and say, I'm somebody. That's all that is. It's a validation stamp because really, I did the research, I did the math. You pull out engineers, you pull out doctors, you pull out any field that you have to have a degree to go to that